I am Professor B.P. Sinha. At present, I am the director of Radio Khanchi 90.4 FM. Today, I am going to speak on criticism, English criticism, literary criticism, and gradually I'll be speaking on literature, which includes poetry, drama, short stories, novels, and also cinema. Criticism is a very important part of literature, and though it is not associated with creative writing as such, as we know of writing a short story or poem or novel, but criticism is very important if you want to analyze any work of art, and for that, criticism is very, very important. And in English literature, criticism is very powerful and very important, and it has a very long history. And right from Chaucer, the father of English language, till now, the criticism in English literature is thriving and very powerful, and it shows the way how to write and how to analyze. So today I'll speak on the beginning of English criticism, and gradually I will come to the postmodernism. Literature is not a dead rock. It is a flowing river, changing its course continuously. Literary theory has existed for many centuries. The art of criticism began in ancient Greece, sometime in the 5th century BC. It was an age of intellectual awareness in Athens. Achilles, Sophocles, Euripides, Socrates, Aristophanes all lived in that very age and gave discourse on religion, philosophy, morality, politics, art, and literature. Plato, the great Greek philosopher, was the pioneer in giving a discourse on the relation of literature to life. He referred mainly to poetry. He regarded poetry as a mere imitation of life, and thus he condemned the poets. He opposed poetry because he believed in theory of ideas. Plato was of the opinion that true reality is inherent and possible only in philosophy. Plato developed the argument that poetry is simply an imitation of life with a reference to painting. According to him, painter only imitates what he sees and does not know how to make or use what he sees. So the poet imitates reality without understanding it. Poetry or literature as a whole is an imitation of an imitation and thus removed from truth. Plato's insistence on truth shows his awareness of the difference between the truth of poetry and truths of life. Disapproving the non-moral character of the poetic art, Plato states the difference between the function of poetry and the function of philosophy. He was the first philosopher to propound the theory that there are two kinds of art: the fine art, like literature, painting, sculpture, and music, which are indulged in for more pleasure, and the useful art like medicine, agriculture, and crockery that cooperate with nature. Plato was too much of a philosopher and moralist, could not judge that an artist creates something which may be less than reality, but also creates something more. The error in Plato's thinking was corrected by his disciple Aristotle. While agreeing with Plato that poetry is an imitation of reality, he also believed that literature is the imaginative reconstruction of life. In his poetics, he undertook to examine the nature and qualities of imaginative literature. According to Aristotle, the poet derives an inspiration from life by his imaginative faculty and then imitates the inspiration in language. It is this pleasure in imitation that enables the child to learn his lessons in speech. The poet's imitations are not unreal, twice removed from reality as Plato believed. On the contrary, they reveal truths of a universal kind. Aristotle makes a comparison between poetry and history. He says, it is not the function of the poet to relate what has happened, but what may happen. Poetry is more philosophical, more serious than history. Aristotle is in agreement where he says that poetry makes an immediate appeal to emotions. Offering definitions of tragedy, he states that literature is about character and that character is revealed through action. Aristotle says, tragedy is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of certain magnitude, is language embellished with each kind of artistic ornament. The several kinds being found in separate parts of the play in the form of action, not of narrative, through pity and fear, effecting the proper purgation of these emotions. Tragedy, he said, should stimulate the emotions of pity and fear, these being roughly sympathy for the empathy with the plight of the protagonist. By the combination of these emotions, the effect of catharsis emerges. Aristotle gave the famous theory of unities in a drama. It should have unity of action in the life of the hero, which are intimately connected with one another and appear together as one whole. While Plato's approach to literature was that of a social science reformer, Aristotle is that of a scientist. Aristotle believed that politics is a social science which can be judged by the contribution it makes to social well-being. Poetry has to be judged by its proper function, pleasure. Poetry has to appeal to emotions, which is cathartic. The poet is concerned with truth, but not the truth of a historian or a novelist. Today I stop here, and tomorrow I will be discussing about Philip Sidney, another towering personality in English literary criticism.